Good day, guys. Today I come bearing gifts of tutorials. I know you guys thought I won't be back. I thought I won't be back, but here I am. Today I'm going to be breaking down my avatar opening scene visual effects and what other element to start with than water. Please, before we proceed, I need you guys to share, like, subscribe, and do all the needful. This helps me to keep on bringing you guys this fantabulous content, I believe. So without further ado, let's delve into the software we used, which is Blender. The water effect is just simply fluid simulated along a path. Firstly, what I did was I created a path using curves. Then in your physics properties, make it a force field and then change the shape to be at point. Change the shape from point to curve down here. For the strength and flow, you have to adjust these parameters to your liking to determine the speed and how you want the fluid to react. Time for the fluid itself. Create a cube and place it where you want the fluid scene to begin. Then in objects, go to quick effect and add quick liquid. In the cube, while selected on the cube, go to its physics properties and then change it from, it's going to be a geometry, change it from geometry to inflow. That's very important. Then for the domain is going to be a cube. It's going to be a larger cube around the initial cube you created, but because this is already baked, the domain is already a fluid. Anyways, make sure while the domain is in cube form, it contains the whole curve part in it so that to simulate throughout the curve. In the domain physics properties, under field weight, disable the gravity. This will enable the fluid to follow the path without any interference from real-world simulation. To ramp up and down the fluid sim, as you can see in the final video, I keyframed the time scale down here. I keyframed it when necessary to go from fast to slow, as you can see there, to go from fast to very slow. After all this, I increased my resolution for the final bake, and that is how the water simulation was created for the water effect. Thank you.
Water.
Earth. Don't forget to subscribe. For the earth, it is animation with smoke and particle simulations. First, I separated a piece of rock from the environment, then I animated it to follow my bending. For the dust, I created a particle sim. In the particle properties under velocity, I increased the normal velocity so that it will have this upward movement, as you can see. So the particles will have the upward movement. Then I made the piece of rock I separated into a collision object. Then I went to the object, quick effect, and I added quick smoke. In the physics properties of the particle object, I changed the flow source from mesh to particle system, and then I selected my preferred particle system down here. While for the domain, I reduced the time scale and increased the resolution for the final bake. For the little debris, I created a particle system and increased the normal velocity. Then in the particle properties, under render, I set to render as collection, and then I instanced a fractured icosphere collection to serve as different sizes of debris. And that is how the earth effect was created. Thank you.
Earth.
Fire. As always, don't forget to subscribe. As the name implies, this is simply just a fluid simulation, but it's controlled by a particle sim. A particle sim was created, and under the particle properties, I adjusted the Y velocity to make it shoot towards the camera. For the flame, I went into Objects, Quick Effects, and selected Quick Smoke. Under the physics properties of the particle object, I changed the flow type to fire plus smoke. Then I changed the behavior to inflow, and I enabled initial velocity. For the domain, I set the resolution to 400 for the final bake, and that is how the fire sim was created for the fire effect. Thank you.
Fire.
And now the final element, air. The air is a smoke simulation controlled by particles. First, I created a swirl curve, then under its physics properties, I changed the shape to curve. I adjusted the strength and flow to match the speed and lightness of how I want the simulation to behave. Then I created a particle system, and under the particle properties, I reduced the gravity so that the simulation will follow the first object, which is the swirly curve. For the particle system, I went to Object, Quick Effect, and added Quick Smoke. Under the physics properties, I changed the flow behavior to inflow. Then I changed the flow source to particle system, and I selected the particle system of my choice. Then for the domain, I increased the resolution to 300 for the final bake. And that essentially is how I created the air effect. Thank you. Hope with these few points of mine, I've been able to give you guys a little insight on how I created my avatar opening scene visual effects. And if you guys want to see more stuff like this, not if you want to see, whether you want to see, whether you don't want to see, I have more stuff coming out on how I recreated the avatar sphere elemental ball. I used some different tricks in some elements, and when you watch that video that will come out after this one, you obviously see progress in the way I created the effects, and you see that I learned a few or one or two things. So subscribe, turn on notification so that you'll be able to see when that breakdown comes out. And until next time, if I'm RC, peace.